Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do another episode of Brandon Apocalypse 2022, and the subject of today's video is um, Lynx 12 semi-automatic AK-47 shotgun um, versus your more traditional pump shotgun. Okay, I did a must-have guns for the Brandon Apocalypse video a couple of weeks ago. There was 4 guns I included: AR-15 with a 5.56 bolt, a 22 conversion bolt for that AR, a Glock Gen 3, either original or clone, as a backup gun, Palmetto PX9 9mm AR style rifle that takes Glock mags, okay, and then the Lynx 12 shotgun. Now, the reason why the Lynx 12 is on that list is because I wanted a gun that was capable of hunting fast-moving targets like birds that are flying through the air or rabbits that are running. That's not something I can do with any of the other guns. So that's why the shotgun needed to be on that list. It allows me to hunt certain types of animals under certain conditions that I cannot do with any of the other guns. Now, if at all possible, if I'm hunting, I would rather hunt with one of the other guns. So if I'm rabbit hunting and I see that the rabbits are, I live in an area where the rabbits stop and eat. There's lots of them, hanging out out in the grassy areas. I would rather use my 22s. Okay, the reason is because I got a lot more 22s. So I told you guys that as far as ammunition, you should have a minimum of 5,000 rounds of 22. You can get those right now for about $300. The main issue here is space conservation. Okay, let's look at this ammunition over here. Over here, I have 1,000 rounds of 5.56, weighs about 25 pounds. Okay, over here I have 250 shells, 12 gauge. Okay, also weighs about 25 pounds. So for the same weight, for the same 25 pounds, I got 250 rounds versus 1,000 rounds. Okay, so in my prior videos, I told you guys to have a minimum of 4,000 rounds, 5.56 ammo. I could only tell you guys to have a minimum of 1,000 rounds of 12 gauge because 1,000 rounds of 12 gauge is going to take up the same space as 4,000 rounds of 5.56 or 4,000 rounds of 9mm, 9mm being even more compact. Okay, so because we have a limited amount of 12 gauge, we're only going to use that when we absolutely have to use it, and that's for while birds are in flight or rabbits are running. Okay, nice thing about the 12 gauge shotgun, right? It also gives us a self-defense capability. Okay, because even though we're mostly going to be hunting with birdshot, we can have some slugs with us, right? Now, you're not going to have a whole lot of slugs, so unless you live in an area where you are actually hunting large animals like moose or something where you need slugs, then I would change. I wouldn't have, maybe I would have less birdshot, more slugs, right? But in my case here, there's no moose around here, so I'm going to be doing most of my hunting either with the 5.56, which I got lots of, right? Or the 22 long rifle, which I have lots of, right? I can hunt those small rodents with the 22 long rifle. The deer, I can either use the 5.56 or I can use the 9mm rifle. Okay. In the prior videos, I had mentioned that the animal that you will most likely be hunting and eating will be wild dogs and cats, because there's going to be corpses all over the roads. The dogs and cats are going to start eating those corpses. They're going to start multiplying. So you're going to have lots of cats and dogs to eat. So that's most likely the animal that you're going to be hunting, and you can hunt that with the 9mm rifle pretty good. Okay, but in some instances where you need to hunt birds that are in flight or rodents that are running, the 12 gauge, you can't do it with anything other than the 12 gauge. So we need that gun. But the good thing about the Lynx 12 is, take a situation now where I'm hunting, right? I'm bird hunting or I'm rabbit hunting. I've got my my magazine here full of birdshot. But now let's say I see somebody on my property. He's not supposed to be there. I don't want other people hunting on my land. I want to get rid of him, right? I want to ask him to kindly leave. Before I do that, I want to basically get the birdshot out of this gun and put something else in there, like either buckshot or slugs. I prefer slugs, just because the buckshot I have seen, past 75 yards, it starts opening up too much. So I'd rather use slugs. But either case, I need to get the birdshot out of there. Basically, take the safety off, get the magazine out of there, get that out. Take the next magazine, right? That's got either the buckshot or the slugs. Rock that in. Get around the chamber. I'm ready to go. Okay, so now I got a full magazine of either the buckshot or slug. Okay, let's consider the pump. So let's look at the pump over here. All right, so let's get one around the chamber. I'm not gonna bother filling up the whole tube. Okay, so we got one round of chamber, and let's assume we got a full tube. Okay, same thing. I got birdshot in here, right? Got one shot here. I got 5 birdshot in the tube. Same situation. I got somebody on my property. I want to get rid of them, right? I don't want them hunting my animals. Before I approach them and ask them to leave, I want to get the birdshot out of here. Put the slugs in. Okay. Now, what do I gotta do, right? I can either pump this 6 times, right? Hold this, pump this 6 times to get it out. I mean, another option is to pump out the one that's in there, turn this upside down, get that one out, right? And then reach into your other pocket, get the slug in there, right? Okay. So now what I can do is I also, basically I got an extra slot in the tube. I can take another slug, and put the slug in there. Okay, so now what I have is I got 1 slug in the chamber, 1 slug in the tube, that's going to feed next, and then I got 3 birdshot behind that. Okay, so I only got 2 shots of slug or buckshot, depending on what I'm using. So this is definitely a handicap, right? Basically, if I want the whole tube, full of buckshots or slugs, I got to sit there and, and pump that 6 times to get everything out, and then I gotta sit there and pump and basically fill this tube up one by one. And when it's winter time and you got gloves on, right, it can be really hard to get your fingers in the right place to fill this, because you are repeating the same action over and over and over again. It increases the chance that you're going to make a mistake. Okay, get that out of there. That's empty. With the shotgun, with the Lynx 12 rather, that's magazine fed. Okay, the AK, these are AK style magazines, right? That you got to rock in, right? You got to hook it. It can be a little bit of a pain in the ass to get it into the right position, right? You might slip it like I just did. Right, where are you? There it is. Yep. There it goes. But once you get it in, you got 10 rounds in there. Okay, so in either case, there's a feeding effort involved, but with the pump, you're feeding the shells individually, and you gotta do it whatever 5-6 times. Whereas with this, you only gotta feed 1 magazine. Okay, so if you're gonna make a mistake, if you're gonna slip or something, you're only gonna do it once, right? You're gonna, you're not gonna get to repeat that same mistake, 5-6 times over and over again, which is possible when you're trying to push shells in there. Okay, gun empty. Okay, so that's the first problem with pumps. Whatever you have in the tube, right? If you want to change out the ammunition, there's a more complex procedure that you gotta go through to change out the ammunition. Getting the shells into the tube, because of the way you have to grab the shells and push them in with your thumb, is a little bit more harder, right? Especially when it's, I don't know, I think it's like 20 degrees right now. So you gotta have gloves on. That can also be a little bit harder. So there's a problem. Now, as far as the operation of the gun, okay, semi-automatic, once you got the round in the chamber, right, as long as you're shooting it and you're pushing into the gun, right, so that the gun has something to press against as it cycles, it's generally going to work, okay? If you get, let's say you have a jam, right, the way you fix a semi-automatic that jams up, take out the magazine, cycle the gun, get the next magazine in, and, chamber round, and you're ready to shoot, okay? So that's the only problem that you're likely to have with the operation of a semi-automatic shotgun. Now with the pump, hey, the problem that I've been seeing for 12 years as an instructor, right, training people on these pumps, is that both beginners and also experienced people, under stress, they will do two things. They will short stroke. They will short stroke the shotgun. That means they won't pump it hard enough to eject the empty shell and then feed the next one in. Okay. And the second problem that I see is when they, which we already mentioned, is when they go to reload, they're dropping shells all over the ground. Okay, so those are the two problems with the pump shotgun that I see both beginners and experienced people. And here's the thing: even with experienced people, right? Most of the time when people are shooting their shotguns, what they're doing, they're busting clay discs, or if they're hunting, basically they're loading them in a very comfortable position. When I train people with the shotguns, I put them, I have them shooting from behind cover or laying on the ground, right? Laying prone, trying to pump this while you're prone on the ground, or kneeling, or some other. It's not as easy and as comfortable to pump the shotgun. Okay, so the same people that say they never pump, that never jam up the shotguns while they're pumping them, when you put them in a more stressful type of situation, in a more uncomfortable type of position, they also short stroke the guns. Okay, and in those same positions, they'll drop shells. Okay, so those are the problems that I have seen with the pumps that I see less of when I train people on a semi-automatic AK style shotgun. Okay? Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is reliability, because that's the other issue that comes up when we're talking about these shotguns, so reliability. Now, I want you to take a good look at this shotgun, right? You can see the wear on it. Okay, this shotgun has about 3,000 rounds on it. Okay, which for me is like nothing. Okay, I mean, I got my Glock 17 has 90,000 rounds on it. I got AR-15 that I completely wore out the barrel, at 21,000 rounds. So for me to say that this shotgun has 3,000 rounds on it, to me is a very low round count, and still, I actually broke something in this shotgun. Now most people say shotguns don't, pump shotguns don't break. They don't shoot them as much as I do. Okay, most people won't even shoot 500 rounds in their shotguns. When you load the shells, right? As you press the shell in, there's this little metal piece that comes out, right? So as this goes in, it comes out, and then it sticks out, and it stops this from shooting back out. So there's this little metal piece that's spring activated that stops the shell from popping out. And likewise, when you pump it, moves out of the way just enough so that the shell will come back out. Okay, that's the piece that broke on this pump right here. Okay? That is a New England partner, which is an 870 clone, but I've also heard that other people that have had 870, actual Remington 870s with high round counts have broken that same piece, because it's basically the same piece, right? So now that was fixed under warranty, shipped it out, sent it back to me fixed. But the point is that it broke within 3,000 rounds. Okay. Now I had another shotgun that was a 20 gauge. That same piece broke on that one. It broke in a different way. The problem with that, and this was a brand new gun. What would happen is that the shells would basically get stuck in the tube. When you would pump it, that little piece of metal that's supposed to move out of the way so if the shell can come back, it wasn't moving out of the way enough. Okay, so you were sitting there pumping it, and it wasn't feeding. I sent that back to the company. I think that was a Mossberg. I sent it back to the company for them to fix it. And then they sent it back to me. It shot good for I don't know, maybe another 50 rounds, 100 rounds or something. And then it started having that same problem. And what I did is I sold that gun. You know, I took it to the gun store. I sold it off on consignment. Basically, I had, because I already sent it out once, and it came back broken. I had enough of that gun. Okay, so that was the second pump that broke on me. Okay, and then the third one is this one over here. This one's a Mossberg. Okay, basically on this one, the piece that broke is the point where the handle connects to the rail that pumps this. Remember, every time you pump this, you're pumping this hard. You have to pump it hard to make sure you eject the empty shells. So the point where the handle connects to the rail, it broke, and I had to get that replaced. Okay, so I've broken 2 shotguns, and one was, you know, I've had a problem with 3 pumps. 2 of them I broke, right, just from high usage, and one was just factory defective that I got rid of, right. So this one over here has about 3,000 rounds on it. This one over here has about 1,000 rounds on it. Okay, so they do break. You know, people that say pump shotguns don't break, I think they just don't shoot them enough. Okay, I mean, all machines break. Now, this Lynx 12 here, okay, I broke this thing too, right? First of all, the recoil spring wore out at about 10,000 rounds, okay? So I had to change out the recoil spring. And then at 11,000 rounds, the bolt broke, right? The bolt itself, the little tail, I did a video on that. And I had to basically replace that. So all guns break. I've broken this gun, but this gun went up to 11,000 rounds before anything broke on it. I have 2 Sega 12s that I've retired. Each of those did about 30,000 rounds each before the bolt carriers cracked at the point where the bolt carrier connects to the piston. I did a video on that. I think it's like Lynx 12 3,000 round review. You can look at that one. You can look up that video. But the point is that I have two Sega 12s. Those are Sega 12s. 2 Sega 12s that went 30,000 rounds before the bolt carrier cracked at the point where the piston meets the bolt carrier, right? And then at that point, buying another Sega 12 was not available. They weren't importing anymore. So that's when I went to the Lynx 12. I've got 2 of these Lynxes now that are up to 15,000 rounds. So this one broke at 11,000 rounds. The other one that I had that's up to 15,000 rounds. On that one, all I've had to do is replace the recoil spring, okay? So the bolt on that one's been doing fine. So as far as reliability, it seems to me like these AK shotguns are very reliable when, you know, compared to the pump, which is not to say you may not have a pump that has a really high round count. All I'm saying here is that you can't say that these Lynx 12s are not reliable. Now, the quality control coming out of China is a little iffy. Okay, so when you get these guns, you gotta test them out. But if you get it and it's working, chances are that you've got a Lynx 12 that's going to be good. Okay, so the design concept of the Lynx 12, which is basically an AK shotgun, I think is superior. I think it's a much simpler design in the sense that the biggest point of vulnerability for the pump is the point where you're pumping it, right? Because that's you're pumping it hard in order to make sure that you don't short stroke it, and the shells staying in the tube, you know, feeding and, you know, basically staying in the tube when they're supposed to stay in and coming out when they're supposed to come out. That's not an issue with this because it's in the magazine, and all you have is the feed lips holding this in place, and then the bolt, which is a heavy piece of metal, goes forward and pushes the shell into the chamber. And if this breaks, then, you know, you just go to replacement. Okay. So the weakest point of any gun is basically the feeding device. Okay. You know, on a revolver, you know, it's the cylinder. You know, a lot of times the cylinders, as revolvers get older, they'll lose their timing. The gears start wearing out. You know, people that say revolvers never break, don't shoot them enough. Okay, I've broken many revolvers. Okay, I've actually had companies had to replace revolvers for me. So I break revolvers. I break all guns. You know, when you do as much shooting as I do, the revolvers actually wear out a lot faster than most of the other guns, just because you've got those fine gears that have to, you know, match up, and the timing has to be perfect, and all that. The You know, the pumps compared to other guns, like I said, I've broken both of these at less than 3,000 rounds, right? So the track record that I've seen is that the pumps are more likely to break than any of your other semi-automatics. Okay, again, it has to do with the fact that you got to pump it hard, and also the fact that you know, the feeding system is such where you got this tiny little piece of metal that when you feed the shell, that holds that in place, and then when you go to pump it, it's got to move out of the way just the right amount so that the shell will come out so it can go into the chamber. Okay, so that's an area of vulnerability. Okay, so that's the reason, and all that information there is the reason why I have the Lynx 12 on my must-have gun list versus the pump. Okay, combination of easier to work the gun, right? And also, I've seen that the AK shotguns are more reliable. So, if you guys got any thoughts on that, drop in the comment section. If you disagree, that's fine. You know, I'm perfectly good with that. You know, just, you know, we can have a discussion about that. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe, hit the bell button so you get notifications. I'll talk to you all soon.